Hello, everyone. Welcome to Red Songbird Foundation's Let the Journey Begin. My name is Hilary Roberts, alongside my amazing co-host, Jason Waller.
You guys, we have created this podcast to hear the incredible journeys of people that struggle with substance abuse, mental health, and trauma. We have created the most safe and trusted environment for these individuals to share their stories. Let's let the journey begin. All right, welcome back to Let the Journey Begin. I am your host, Jason Waller, alongside my co-host, Hilary Roberts. Hilary, how are you? What is going on? It's good to see you.
Man, I'm great. I was at the Dodgers game on Friday night with my friend, Rev, and getting to meet some pretty amazing people, and had a great time with that. But more than that, I'm singing the national anthem for the Colorado Rockies, and I ruined that. That's my hometown. I ruined that opportunity back when they were just starting because I couldn't get there. You know, I was drinking and drugging, and I just couldn't get there. So now I'm being represented as a sober woman. They wanted a sober person to sing the national anthem.
That's so rad that it's come full circle.
Happening.
That's so cool. No, and moreover, I mean, we have a lot of really, that's incredible. We also have some amazing things going on within the organization, you guys. We have a couple scholarships actually going on right now. One we're doing with SoberLink, which is an awesome opportunity for accountability through a device. And then we also have a 90-day scholarship that we're offering right now for female who is struggling with substance abuse and or mental health. Speaking of baseball, we have an incredible opportunity that was given to us through the Angels, where we're actually going to be able to host a really rad sober event on July 28th. We're going to be, getting tickets for the game, so a bunch of people can come out and join us and have a good time. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. The foundation's got a lot of really cool things going on. Hilary, congratulations on you coming up to sing the national anthem at the Rockies. That's going to be amazing. So, but you have a special guest. I'm excited to meet.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. This guy, I've known this guy for several years, and
I'll apologize for him ahead of time.
Oh, whatever. God, smack. Go run in traffic, as you like to tell me. No, but this guy, his story is so powerful. I can't wait for everybody to meet him. He walks the walk. And he's also a musician, which of course is close to my heart besides sobriety. So our guest today is artist driver at the Los Angeles Philharmonic, Malek Vossough. Malek is a multi-instrumentalist whose Western musical focus is violin and guitar. He also has an incredible story, and that's what we wanted to get into today. Malek, my friend, thank you for joining the show.
What's up, bro?
Hi, thanks for having me, guys.
No, we appreciate you being here, man. Thank you so much for joining us.
So, Malek, we start our guests off with this very heavy question of, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Well, if you had asked me that when I was 6, I think it was a fireman. But as I grew up, I was in love with music. I was in love with music. Music was the thing that kind of helped me find my identity, got me excited, got me passionate about learning something on my own. And
how old were you when you started all that?
I really got involved in music. My mom had a classical guitar in the house, and I would just go play it. Like from the age of 9 or 10. I was never really given formal music lessons, but I would pick this guitar up, and she showed me a couple chords, and I just kept going, and I think around the age of, 11, 12, I started a little dog walking business in my neighborhood in Chicago, and I bought my first keyboard, and I started teaching myself keyboard. This is in the early 80s, right?
Yeah.
And then I found an acoustic harmony steel string in the trash, and at the age of like 15. And I started playing that, and I was learning how to, play. That was a lot different of an instrument for me. And I just remember playing it till my fingers were bleeding. I was so interested in learning how to play this new sound. And then at the age of 16, I bought my first electric guitar, and I started a little band in my high school. And so, me finding my voice and my passion kind of came out of this process.
Well, it sounds like at a very young age, as an adolescent, I mean, you had your stuff together. I mean, you started working, developing, creating your own income, really, really dedicated and motivated to your music. What drove you off course? I mean, it seems like you were on a great path and really pursuing what you were loving, and also you were having motivation and passion to wake up every day. Where did this end up taking you?
Well, I think around my first year in high school, I was like, ultra conservative and trying to do the best I could, getting straight A's. And then I started having a social life. And then I got introduced to, various, what I like to call sundries.
Sundries. What's a sundry?
They were non-legal, I would suppose, at the time.
Yeah. I mean, I think the first time I got introduced to, like smoking and drinking, smoking weed and drinking at kind of a young age, and I had friends who were kind of like they were cool and they had access to that, and I wanted to be cool and I wanted to connect with them, and that was an activity that would make me cool. My home life was fine. I was raised by a single mother, but I think I was lacking a little bit of direction and guidance that I could have used. And my mother was a wonderful person. She just did the best she could. But what it's like being a young adolescent. You're discovering who you are, who you want to be, your identity. And I didn't really have the kind of discipline that would prevent me from doing what I felt like doing. It wasn't like there was no consequences of me. I wasn't being checked on. I had a lot of I was kind of like a latchkey kid, as they say. So I was out and about doing whatever I wanted, and I started getting involved with, just doing crazy things with people. And that kind of began the process for me of deviating from what I would say would be more of a straight path. But for me, I thought it was part of the process.
Did that take you away from your music?
Well, it didn't help me focus on it, but it made me feel like I was cooler doing it.
Right? You had some of those Jim Morrison moments and Jimi Hendrix thoughts going through.
Yeah, I think I dropped acid at 16, and I started hanging out with people who, that was really what they liked to do. They liked to party, they liked to drink and do drugs, and right. That was kind of like my immediate community of friends.
So when did it get worse? Like when?
Yeah, it got worse. I remember at the age of 18, I graduated from high school, and I discovered that my mother and I were homeless. And I didn't really think that was my fault, right? That was something that happened because I guess my mother had a hard time, and it wasn't until a couple of years after that till I finally got things more situated in my life that I was like, oh, wow, this is what I'm doing isn't helping, or, I seem to be distracted from being able to be functional and to be able to handle problems, right? And I decided that I would try to, stop doing stuff like that. And I was around 20, and I started buying carrots and juicing, and I started riding my bike 6 miles a day, and I started meditating. And I didn't know anything about really other than what my mother would tell me about my father, actually. My father was an addict, and I didn't know that. I didn't understand that, really. I just knew that he had problems with, drugs, and it was tragic, and that's why my mom left him, and we were alone, separated from him from, I guess, the age of 5. So I was born in California. I was born in LA, and my mother took me back to her hometown in Chicago and raised me there. So in Chicago, when I was homeless, I found that, hey, wow, this is not a way to live, and it kind of forced me to look at some hard truths about what it would mean to take care of myself. Eventually, my mom and I found a way to kind of get a domicile back together, and I made this attempt at trying to, stay more on a straight and narrow. And I really felt like I wasn't, even during that time when I was homeless at that young age after high school, my mother encouraged me to continue to go to college. She said she wanted me to pursue my dreams of music. And so while I was homeless, I was going to a conservatory in Chicago and studying jazz guitar. And so my passion and for love of music and my direction was kind of nurtured, but not, but I knew that I was at a disadvantage at that time. I was still,
where would you guys sleep?
High.
Where would you guys sleep?
We started out going to shelters, and then we bounced around, and I found myself working at a local cafe. That's a crazy story. I got a job at a cafe, washing dishes full time, and so there's a hairdresser around the corner who liked me, and he's like, he knew I had nowhere to stay. He's like, well, I have a big apartment and I have a room. You could stay there. And so I had kindness from people, and
yeah,
and bounced around from friends' houses for a little while. The shelters only took you for 2 weeks.
Malek, no, I mean, this is fascinating. But what I'm really curious about is you basically said you wanted to clean up your act. You wanted to, try to, better yourself. You want to start juicing. You want to start riding your bike. I mean, did that work for you, or was that only for, a little bit of time? Like what happened there?
Right. So it worked for a little while. And then, I started connecting with my father. Like I had no relationship. And, I made an attempt to, connect with him, and we started having a, on the phone relationship. And I told him at that time I started getting interested in world music.
Well, so did that connection with your father draw you off course though?
Well, I mean, it did and it didn't. It did and it didn't. It was part of the process for me. Part of the process for me was to understand, to know what my father's problem was.
Right.
Right. For myself. Got it. So while I was clean and working on myself, trying to stay away from drugs, I was trying to understand who my father was and develop a relationship with him. And so what I did is I moved to LA and I connected with him. And I found that, he was an amazing person, but his life was not, he was
so when you connected with him, was he still actively using when you connected with him?
Well, my father was in a methadone program until the day he died. He got addicted to pharmaceutical medication, and he was an opium addict in Iran, and which is not uncommon. But when he moved out here, he came here in the late 60s, and he was clean. And but then he was introduced to all the other fantastic sundries that are available to people in the late 60s. So he slowly kind of got back into that. And he eventually got addicted to prescription narcotics. And in order to get off that, he went into a program where they put him on methadone. And methadone hadn't even been created yet. He was in an experimental trial at UCLA. And he never really got off of it. He got on it for pain management. And, he never got off it. He continued to smoke weed, and he continued to take other pills to manage himself. So he really never really understood what I eventually was able to do, which was to completely be free and clear of any kind of mind-altering substance.
Wow. So when you came out here, though, how much time were you able to actually spend with him? Were you a couple years?
Well, I lived with him for about a few months, and I realized I can't stay with him. It was not a healthy dynamic. He was emotionally unstable. He was he had addictive personality, behavioral problems. He would lash out. It was not. I basically had the wound of an absent father, and I filled it with a sick person.
Yeah.
So I had to learn how to become a different. I had to learn how to basically put a boundary between me and him. I had a little bit of experience with mental illness growing up. My mother's sister was mentally ill, schizophrenic, and I was around her a lot. So I understood that some people, you just have to kind of accept that they're sick. And eventually I got to that point with my father, but it was difficult because there was an emotional expectation.
How old were you when you came out to LA?
I was about 20, 22.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, wow. I mean, you lived and experienced a lot. I mean, just growing up, and I commend you, and there's so much respect for you wanting to try to connect with your father, but also the awareness is absolutely incredible that you knew it wasn't the most conducive to yourself and that you needed to continue moving on. Did the dominoes continue to fall for you, or was that kind of the turning point?
Yeah, for many years, I didn't stay sober at that point. I didn't stay clean and sober. I kind of fell back into, what I didn't realize was a problem. I just thought that it was like something that if I did too much, it would be a problem. And it slowly, progressively over many years became more and more of a problem. I didn't really see it happening.
Wow.
So I went in and out of sobriety. I went in and out of abstaining from drinking and using drugs of any kind. And I did that a few times. And each time I'd have somebody in my life who'd be like, "Oh, I've been through that," and and they'd offer to help me and show me how they managed to maintain and obtain abstinence from these problems and improve their life. And I was developing a new understanding of what my spirituality was over time, and I think about 20 years ago, I got involved in a Buddhist practice, and that helped me a lot. All the time I was learning world music, going to UCLA and performing in ethnomusicology ensembles, in and out of school, got to Santa Monica College, in and out of sobriety, eventually graduated from Santa Monica College and went and transferred to Cal State Northridge. But I really couldn't keep my abstinence and sobriety. And it really definitely hindered a lot of my capacity and abilities to excel in the way I wanted to as a musician.
So on that, Malek, what was the turning point? What was the moment of clarity when things had just gotten that moment and you're like, I've got a problem. I got to do this.
So when that moment came, this is about 7 years ago. I had been homeless for a year, bouncing around in LA, and I ended up in a garage with a guy who worked out of his garage, who kind of like took me in and let me hang out with him. And he used his garage to like restore artifacts. And I was in this garage one night, up for 3 days, using and drinking. And I had this moment of clarity. And I actually had a psychotic break, and in the middle of this break, I realized I started talking to what I thought was the devil and saying, I understand who you are now. And now I know what I'm up against. And now I know what I'm dealing with. And I realized I needed to make a decision. And I said, my soul's accounted for. I know God wants me to do something different. And I reached out to God in a new way. And I said, I understand now that it's a decision I have to make. I'm willing, help me and I'll do whatever you want me to do. And it involved me being able to realize the value that would involve helping people. There was something about that, help me, I'll help anyone you want me to help. That was really the major turning point and moment of clarity for me. And then slowly, I was reaching out for help. I was reaching out for treatment. I was looking for a place to go. I could try to get out of this homeless situation and get help. And I found I had been at a job where someone mentioned the Midnight Mission to me. And I had been in and out of, some communities that I knew where there was help to go. And I showed up at one of these communities and reached out to some people, and they helped me. They understood. They realized I needed help. They were willing to help me. And they brought me to the Midnight Mission. I was unable to get into any other treatment center. I tried. I wanted to go to nicer places. I didn't want to end up at Skid Row. And so I ended up at this place, and realizing now that was kind of what God had in store for me. God wanted me to go to this place. And I think on some level, I wanted to know the true nature of all suffering. And I wanted to go through that process. Like I said, I had been studying Buddhism and practicing for like 20 years, but it wasn't helping me stay sober. But it gave me a lot of spiritual insight. But there was something missing. There was something missing, and that was people who were suffering from this issue that I was suffering from, and being able to get professional help in this way. So the Midnight Mission took me in. It took a couple of tries, and basically my journey really began when I was able to get to be admitted there and be taken in as in their healthy living program.
That's absolutely that's one hell of a moment of clarity. That's for sure. Did your father's addiction have any motivation for you to get clean?
No, it never helped. Like I said, I was armed with a lot of facts about my family's, history and my family's dynamic and dysfunction, and it was a warning sign, but it didn't really have the strength to motivate me to change anything. I had to come to that moment of complete moment of surrender, really, for myself. It had to be about me and my own experience, and I wasn't thinking about my father at all when I had that moment of clarity. It was all about me and my soul and my journey.
Right. I didn't know if after you guys had connected and you were just kind of like, look, like I know I can't be around this, but there's some motivation to me, but it seems like there was kind of other courses that you had to take for you to get to where you're at. Is your mom still in your life and a part of your recovery now?
Both of my parents passed away before I actually got sober. So
I'm so sorry.
Sorry to see. I'm so.
My mother passed away at a young age, died unexpectedly. My father died at 70. My mother died at like 60. So this is within the last 14 years, something like that.
Just know that they're looking down, man, and they're very, very proud. They're very proud
Yeah.
of you.
Oh, I definitely believe that.
Yeah.
I've had spiritual experiences around, my mother's passing, and I actually felt her spirit go through me. I was at her bedside when she died, and I had some phenomenal spiritual experiences that reminded me that there's something going on here that's not something you can see.
Yeah.
The Midnight Mission basically would, they had a program where they helped you, find a way to maintain a healthy living style. And I took full advantage of it. I involved myself with it, with a lot of enthusiasm.
Well, that's what I want to get into is the solution, right? I mean, that's the big piece. And again, as I really appreciate the openness, the vulnerability, the humility, and it's so commendable. Bravo to you to see where you're at right now. But what is it today? What is the solution? How do you maintain your sobriety? I know you talked a lot about being of service, giving back, spiritual connection. But what are some of the things you do on a daily basis to maintain the life that you live today?
Well, you definitely approaching life in a whole new way is pretty much everything is different. There's a lot more prayer, more open-mindedness to what God is for me. There's a new seeking spirit in terms of what, how I basically am upholding the vow I made when I promised God I'll do whatever He wants me to do. And so I find myself having a lot more understanding and compassion for people and trying to be more helpful to people. I got out of the mission and I left that program and completed that program 2015. And
Wow.
I lived in Skid Row for another few years. And recently I just moved to Santa Monica. So while I was staying at Skid Row, I got myself involved in that community. I was working with a nonprofit organization out there that did outreach, and I was basically I got mentored a little bit there, and I was taken in by an LA Philharmonic violinist who I got to work in his organization and do some outreach and do some community engagement projects, playing music for the Midnight Mission, the Weingart Center, the Men's Central Jail. I got involved with another organization down there called Urban Voices Project, which is a community choir that works with people who are disenfranchised, who've been through homelessness, who've been through drug addiction. And so there's a lot of involvement in a music community that I was able to be a part of. And I got to share my story. I got to play music with other musicians from, the LA Phil, and I got to introduce some of my passions of world music and do a little bit of programming and create some music. I went back to school and finished my degree at Cal State Northridge, and I basically wrote my experience I did my final project on my experience working with that organization and writing and composing music and bringing that back into that community and having opportunities to engage the community and share that music with them. And really that engagement option, that engagement experience involved not only me sharing my experience living in that community and going through these challenges, but inviting people in the community to talk about how the music is, what is it that they hear in the music, and what does it bring, what do they feel they need to express. And it became like a community engagement session that opened up this dynamic of I was able to provide someone that they could relate to, which is what that organization did for me. When I was in the mission, they would come in and bring music, and they would ask, what do you hear in the music, and what does this mean to you? And that was the beginning of a musical bridge and in service for that community.
So let me ask you this. We leave our people with one action for the day. So if you were to give our listeners one action for the day to help them today, what would it be?
Well, I would say, reaching out to somebody that you feel would benefit from someone caring about them. I think that is the thing that I try to do every day. And that usually makes me more grateful, more humble, more connected, more aware of what, more in touch and in line with what, the universe has to offer and push me in the right direction. So I think reaching out to somebody and not being afraid to feel like they, everyone can benefit from someone who cares about them.
That's incredible.
That's right.
I really, really like that action. That's actually, I'm going to do that after we're done here. Thank you so much for coming on here, Malek. I mean, what a testimony. Congratulations on the sobriety. Congratulations from Skid Row to Santa Monica, man. It sounds like you've made some leaps and bounds, brother. And hard work does pay off. And anything worth having is not easy. And you're a prime example of that.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Thanks for having me, guys.
All right, guys, thanks again for listening to another episode of Let the Journey Begin.
Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review on Apple Podcasts or anywhere else you get your podcasts. Also, to learn more about the Red Songbird Foundation, visit us at www.redsongbird.org. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.